everything you say and sound must be different from the rest of the telemarketers. And so when you start to speak in that presentation voice, or you start to say, we work with a few other Andreessen portfolio companies, it's Armand from Pave, those little telemarketer uptones, those little signs of presentation voice or youth junior telemarketer voice. It doesn't matter if you say, have you heard her name tossed around? If you're doing it in the wrong tone, because even though your words might sound different, your voice sounds like every other telemarketer out there. And so when you're practicing the tone, the first thing you have to do is, one of the concepts you learn in therapy is you need to draw attention to the emotion before you respond to the emotion. And the same thing goes for cold calling tone, oddly enough, is you need to notice your tone mistakes before you can actually correct a lot of them, because you don't even realize what you're doing. So I always recommend you, friend, record you not paying attention to it. So have a friend record you in a plain conversation when you're not expecting it. And then listen to that right to one of your cold call recordings. And you will be shocked how different they are. And you'll be like, oh my God, I sound like that? Like that's what my uptones sound like? That's what my stutters sound like? That sounds crazy. And just by doing that, the moment you do your next uptone, you'll say it and you'll be like, I did it again. And that's step one, is noticing some of the common corporate tone mistakes.
If I don't talk about my solution here, aren't they gonna, isn't that bad? Don't I have to tell them about the solution? How are they gonna know what I do? This is the number one objection I always get when I see
So you will get into that. So I'll give you an example. For a long time, I sold billing software to law firms. And the big problem that these law firms dealt with was they had to send bills to their insurance carrier clients in a very, very specialized format. They had to be formatted in a certain way. The law firm couldn't use certain words on the bill. Otherwise, the insurance company would say, oh, we don't pay for research. We don't pay for phone calls. We're not paying that $200,000 bill because there was a $5 line item for a phone call. And so I could talk about all the ways that we helped validate whether or not the words were right, that we made sure that the bills were always in line with the client guidelines, but the customer didn't always have context for that. My pitch would be, look, typically when I'm talking with CFOs of insurance defense law firms, you all tell me it can be really, really frustrating to have to deal with so many deductions, rejections, and appeals on the bills that you send to your insurance carrier clients, and it ends up resulting in a ton of outstanding AR. And we work with about 300 different law firms in the US, helping them cut down on those appeals and rejections. And I guess I'm wondering if you might be open to learning more when I'm not totally calling you out of the blue. So I didn't give a ton on the solution, but I don't have to, because they can picture now, okay, I am dealing with that problem. This now earns me the right to say, let me tell you about how we make it go away in more detail.
The other thing that you can do is, there are two strategies. You either go one big problem and you attack that, and then you have a pivot problem later on. And that's what I did at Carta, because we would do cap table. I was about to say it the wrong way. We would help companies manage their stock option plans and their equity plans. But then also we offered financial services, which is like human capital. Like we're doing valuations as a service. You couldn't throw all of that at them. So we would start with the valuations and then pivot to the cap table, or we would start with the cap table and pivot to the valuations. The other way you can do it is you can do what I call a 3-point problem, which is you pick the beginning, middle, and end of your problem if you have a really complex solution. So for example, one of my clients, their name is Practice. And what Practice does is they have a solution for tutoring and professional coaching businesses, where a lot of tutoring and professional coaching businesses, they have to use Calendly to schedule all of the tutoring sessions. Then they need to track how many tutoring sessions have been taken in another spreadsheet, and then they need to bill all of those tutoring sessions in QuickBooks. And so to do each of those 3 different things are 3 massively different workflows. And so you have a 3-point problem in your problem, which is, well, Jason, the reason that I'm reaching out is, look, usually when I'm talking with another person who's running a tutoring business, it's a little bit of a cluster, because you have to deal with the scheduling of all of your clients. And then when the tutors actually start to give the sessions, you need to track and make sure that they're actually counting all those sessions. And then you got to talk to your finance person to do the billing. And there are a million other things in between. And so practice covers everything from the scheduling to the package tracking to the billing and everything in between, so that you can focus on running your coaching business instead of making sure that you're tracking all of your tutoring sessions for 30 minutes. And so you can pick 3 parts of your problem that cover a wider part of the solution and get tactical on each of them, and then say that we cover everything in between.